Hey guys, welcome back to another What's News, place where I give different articles and talk about different news that's happening today. I am going to be talking about the political situation because a lot of stuff has been developing every day. I have seen this, something new is happening, and it seems like to me, for now at least, that it looks like the Republicans have finally wised up and said, hey, this ain't working, we need to get this deal on the table. It looks like a deal has finally been reached. But I'll talk about that in a moment. But I want to get to a story that, in my opinion, has gripped uh, gripped the nation, caught everybody by storm. This was a New York um, article, but this was so horrendous that everyone across the country had heard about this. It's about baby Hope. As you guys have known, that a suspect has been nabbed. It happens to be baby Hope's cousin. The stuff that is being reported, the events that led to her death, it is heart wrenching. But this is something that, in many ways, I'm glad that a person has been captured. I'm glad that we'll finally see justice this for this child who was taken at a very young age. Was pretty much life was stripped for no reason whatsoever, and yet, as I read the story, as I followed this story day after day, hearing the articles from all of the newspapers, a lot of questions came to my mind, including the media who has been covering it, and they've been covering it extensively, is why did any family member not say anything? Why it took an anonymous caller who, according to reports, was a friend of the child, who finally came forward and said this is what happened, which led to finally the case being broken wide open. And when I say broken wide open, this incident occurred in 1991. It is now 2013, so it's been a good 20 some odd years before they finally cracked the case. In the article, which was given by the Huffington Post, pretty much explains everything. They said following the arrest of Cataro jurors who confessed that this past weekend of killing the 4-year-old baby Hope in 1991, the mother and the sister of the brutally murdered little girl has spoken out for the first time. This is something. The reason why I say this is very interesting because the media, when the mother spoke, and she said in the article, said you can't even describe the punishment. The mother Castillo told reporters in Spanish through a closed door in the home in Queens, "You won't understand the pain. We are just waiting for justice. We are not going to have peace." And a lot of people bring that straight up, and this is something that has been talked about, has been discussed about, is 22 years. You did not expect anyone from your family members to have committed this crime. According to reports, there was a missing report filed, but again, it stays clear that you mean to tell me that none of the family knew anything. And mind you, it was an anonymous tip that led to them over a conversation. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of stuff that have people scratching their head about. Did the family knew more than what they're letting on? And if so, can the prosecutor file additional charges on the family members, including the mother for that matter, in terms of what has happened to this little girl? According to reports, the prosecutors can indeed press additional charges, but it's going to be more complicated to have those charges stick because of a few major factors. And those few major factors is that, according to New York, at least New York State that is, that it's not a crime not to report anything. It's not a crime not to actually, pick up a phone and say, this is what's going on. So that is one of the major factors here. They're not obligated to be moral. They're not obligated to show compassion, and because of that, even if they knew this was going on and did not say anything, and knew that this person killed somebody, did not say anything, they cannot seek charges because of that. They have to be pretty much physically involved, and that's it. Not just basically I feel I knew something, or I think this has actually happened. So it's a very confusing. I even me speaking about it, it's actually confusing. But this is more of pretty much having a role, playing a simple specific role, and leading into this girl's death. Now, there was reports that a woman, I believe the sister, the youngest oldest sister of this guy who's accused, who helped expose the body. And if she was alive, and put Keith was alive, she would have been held on charges for being an accomplice. But she's not alive. She has since passed on, and this is where things really get really questioning about who knows what and what did they do or what they didn't do or why it hadn't even spoken out when it was very clear evidence that there was something else in the picture. A lot of articles also said that at first he tried to deny it, but later on, after hours of interrogation, he finally admitted into doing this. Now, keep in mind that he did a plea of not guilty, but keep in mind that also that can also change over time. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this case, a lot of questions that unfortunately I don't think we're never going to get the answers to. One thing we do know is that we finally have a name, and that is something that has been since then by an anonymous person has been placed on the headstone of baby Hope, and that is Angelica Castillo, I believe, and that is the name of the child. So we finally have a name to go with the tombstone. Like I said, no one knows who this girl was. Nobody had an identity. According to reports, that the body was found in the cooler in a construction site. A construction worker had found it, and the police was trying to determine who this person was, but they had no identification, no DNA evidence at the time. They just had nothing to go on, and they pretty much had a police officer who was investigating the case have donated money to give her a proper burial. In the anniversary, they have left the hotline open, asking for any clues as to who this person was, who this child was, so that way they can actually get things in motion, because this case was stone cold. There was no leads whatsoever, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, they had a break in the case, which led to DNA matching baby Hope to a woman who was possibly identified as the mother. And then and only then things started to really start to take on, when they finally questioned family members, questioned the cousin, and it was only to them that they found out that it was he who had committed the crime. This is also very, very sad. It also said the mother did not know she had been sexually abused and murdered. She also explained why she didn't notify the police that her daughter was missing. And this is where, again, this doesn't add up. Because she wasn't missing, her father took them away, and maybe that was my mistake. Let him take them away. She told them in New York Tuesday, I did not go to the police because I was afraid of not being heard, and I was afraid of not knowing the language. In 1991, the body of Castillo's daughter, only identified this month as Angelica Castillo, was discovered in a cooler alongside the Hudson River Parkway. The body was nude and malnourished. This past summer, the NYPD launched a renewal effort to solve the murder, distributing flyers and sketches of what the girl may look like in current day. It also goes on and says that the police revealed a huge break in the case from when a tipster recently informed police she might have known the girl's mother. Investigators were then able to match Angelica's DNA to the mother. When my mom saw the drawing, she said Angelica would have looked just like me if I were alive, if she were alive. The sister, Lauren Ramirez, told the New York City Post, which, by the way, has a picture of that woman and alongside with the updated image of baby Hope. So I just want to let you know that picture has showed side by side to pretty much further back the case of what she may look like. The 20-year-old says she first learned that she had a sister who was murdered. She was 11 years old. She hadn't heard of Baby Hope case, however, until just last week. Detectives investigated the murder in 1991, named the little girl Baby Hope, solidifying their quest to bring her killer to justice. The case then captured attention of the city when the detectives from the 34th precinct held a funeral mass for the then unidentified girl. Over 500 people attended. Baby Hope also received a proper burial at the bottom of her tombstone. Detective inscribed the word "Because We Care." The tombstone, I'm sorry, Georgia's 52 reportedly told police he accidentally smothered the young girl to keep her quiet after sexually assaulting her. He has since pleaded not guilty to a felony murder charge. And that's just pretty much the gist of that story. And again, if you really look at it and you really look at what the mother said and what everything said, it still raises a lot of questions. Everybody's talking about this. Even people who don't even live in the city or don't even live in the state have talked about this. And it really does raise the question of how much they really know, how much they didn't know. Was someone manipulating them not to say nothing? And these are the kind of things that is going to be thrown out there. One thing is definitely certain. We finally have a name to go with the headstone. They actually put the name on the headstone. Someone who was unidentified have done that. And now they're going to pursue this case to the wire. But to me, damage has been done. There is no justice that's going to bring that's going to heal the pain that that person have caused that girl. There is none. So the only thing you can hope that that the evidence, because like I said, the reports are coming out saying that that the police as well as the DA has to be extremely careful with this case. They can't just mess around with this case, because just because a person confessed doesn't necessarily mean it can stick. Especially when they felt that they were denied legal representation or even so lack of evidence. So the DA must play it right. The DA must make sure that the proper procedure was followed, because if the wrong procedure was followed, especially when it comes to a case like this, that alone could throw everything out of whack. So we'll be keeping on this case. This case is still fresh. This case is still being told in the news. It's pretty much been top billing in news, more so than the political disaster that's been going on. So definitely there's going to be a case that I will be keeping an eye on. I will leave a link to the Huffington Post article, because there actually is not only the article itself, but also video confirmation about the story, so you guys can check it out yourself. But there you have it, guys. Something that I hope the justice can finally be done. A lot of people are saying the case is solved. I'm not going to go for that yet. I am not that blinded to know just how the criminal system works. Sometimes when you rush to judgment, bad things happen. So let's see what happens, what new developments goes on. And I'm kind of curious if the prosecutor is indeed going to start questioning the family members, as well as other charges that may surface, not only the killer, but the killer's family, for not doing anything or not reporting this sooner. All right, let's get to some interesting news with the politicians these days. This has just recently happened, and this is something that is being reported right now, that the shutdown may come to an end. They may actually reach an agreement, a deal. Whether or not that deal will be met by the Senate is still yet to be determined. But it seems like now the GOP is finally giving up this nonsensical move to block any type of Obamacare, or just basically try to prolong Obamacare. This kind of move has pretty much backfired on them to a very large degree. Now, whether this will hurt them in the election that's to come, either this year or the year after that, I do not know. I've seen weird things happen before. This may actually help them in the election or not help them. But one thing is definitely certain. This had a huge consequences and a huge black mark on the Republican Party. No matter whether you agree with Obamacare or don't agree with them, how they approached this and how they was able to hold hold this country hostage in such a way was so definitely irresponsible, and how they really don't really is not representing the people, but more of their constituents who's filling up their pockets. Many people blame this on the Tea Party. That's fine. The majority has been the Tea Party Republicans, but Republicans in general have to share the brunt of this because they have a chance to say, hey, look, enough of this. We got the country at stake here. We gotta do what we feel is best for the country. But a lot of them kept playing follow the leader. There was more followers and not leaders, and this is. As a result, we got this. Well, finally, there are some Republicans out there who are saying enough is enough, and even some actually lashing out on Ted Cruz. And I'll get to that article in a bit. But here's what's going on here. Washington Representative Jamie Harrington, a Republican, broke rank from many of his fellow Republicans Tuesday evening, calling for her party to give up hope of blocking Obamacare in a budget fight. It also says here that nothing positive will be achieved by prolonging this shutdown any longer or crossing the debt limit threshold. Harriet said in a statement, "It's time for my colleagues to face reality." And that's something that I think that a lot of people are not saying right now, not just Republicans or the Democrats, but the voters as well. Until Tuesday, Harriet, known as a moderate, had been amongst the Republicans calling for a clean, continuing resolution to reopen federal government. She said she stayed silent because she wanted to give the House Republicans leaders leeway to craft the best deal they could. And this is their mistake here. She stood quiet. She already should say joy to the scene from the very beginning what was going on. She should have seen that there are too many people here who were just having a one-minded deal, who was willing to turn this country upside down in order to get what they want. Not what's best for the country, not the compromise for what Obama or anybody else that are Democrats or even their own people. They just want to get what they want. And to me, by a lot of Republicans who are good Republicans who want what's best for the country, by them staying silent, that they either further fuel this radicalism that has been going on, this extremist view that's been going on in the party. And to me, that was the mistake that a lot of those Republicans have made. And to me, it's irrexcusable. You are representing the country. You also supposed to represent common sense. Not one of them did, and it's hurting them. It's hurting them very badly here. But it's time to. It also says here that. But it's time to reopen the government and ensure that we don't default on our debt, she said in a statement. I will not vote for a poison pill that has no chance of passing the Senate or being signed into law. I don't know what to tell you guys. I will say this, that a few hours ago, before recording this West News episode, I had been heard that the Republicans have indeed waved the white flag, and that they are trying to reach a resolution with the Speaker pretty much being the first to vote on this bill. Now, I haven't seen anything new yet. Actually, as I'm speaking to you right now, I am clicking to see if anything has changed. What I know is, from what I'm seeing, this has been something that keeps popping out. The Senate makes a shutdown deal. That is the best thing I could. Let me see if anything has indeed surfaced out of this. So far, I see McCain's face. And this is what it says here, and I will leave a link to pretty much everything I'll show here, including this article. It says just days before the federal government reaches its borrowing limit, Senate leader announced on Wednesday, which is today, that they have struck a deal to reopen the government and avert a potential pragmatic default on the U.S. debt payment. The federal package revealed by Democratic Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and Republican Minority Leader Mitch McKinley on the Senate floor would fund the government through January 15th and raise the debt ceiling through February 7th. The bill will also strengthen income verification requirements for those who sign up for for the insured under the Obamacare, and it will provide them with both parties to appoint lawmakers to a conference committee to reconcile the board budget resolution. The panel would also be led by the Budget Committee head, Republican Rep. Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, and the Democratic Senate Patty Murphy of Washington, and it will be required to announce the result of his negotiation by December 13th. The article also says here that this has been a long, challenging few weeks for Congress and for the country. McClellan said, "It's my hope that today we have put some of the most urgent issues behind us." No, you didn't, because we've been through this before, and we also know that it's going to take some time. Once February reaches, we'll be right back again with the same garbage that led to this mess in the first place. The Senate plans to take up the bill first with the vote plan as early as this afternoon, a senior Democratic aide said. Earlier on Wednesday, there was concern that Senator Ted Cruz, that the Texas Republican who staged a 21-hour speech on the Senate floor to protest the federal health care law, will also use potential tactics to block the vote on the deal. But after the announcement, Ted Cruz told reporters that he will not move to deter the bill progress through the chambers. Whatever you say. I have no obligation to the timing, and the reason is simple. There's nothing to be gained by delaying the vote 1 day or 2 days, Cruz said. The outcome will be the same. Every member of the House is going to have to make a decision whether he or she stands, but there is no benefits. I will never had any intention to delay the timing of the votes. Once the Senate passed the bill, the House vote is expected to rely heavily on the lion's shares of the Democrats' 200 votes to secure passage. Washington is watching the Republican House Speaker Joe Boehner to see how he will tackle the progress that he left many Tea Party's affiliate GOP lawmakers unhappy. Most lawmakers predicted the crisis by literally insisting that any vote to raise the debt ceiling would be a couple of measures rolling back Obamacare. Those demands faded in the fact that the article opposition of Senate Democratic displaying surprisingly surprising unity and the President Barack Obama. The White House. At the White House, the deal draws warm welcomes from Obama, who applauded Reid and McClellan for working together to forge a compromise and hope Congress will pass it as soon as possible. White House Press Secretary Jay Cheney said he looks forward to Congress acting so that he can sign a legislation that will reopen government and will remove this threat from our economy. Cheney told reporters as in a daily briefing. And I'm going to stop right there, guys. I will leave a link to the rest of the story. You guys can check it out yourself. But this is something that has been going on. This has constantly been going on. It's been going on more with Barack Obama than I think with any other president, including Clinton. But one thing is certain, that it does look like a lot of people in the Senate has had enough with this ridiculous tactics. They have enough with Ted Cruz. They have enough with the Tea Party. And it's starting to show. It is starting to show. And especially with Ted Cruz, which is the other story that I wanted to talk about. And this shows us how unhappy they are with him. But again, even with that being said, the party alone didn't really do anything to actually keep him in check. No one have disagreed with him. Everybody went along with him, and this is what happened. Again, this could have been avoided as smarter heads actually stepped up and started speaking up instead of keeping quiet and allowing these nutballs to run this country to the ground. Uh, Here it is, another courtesy of Huffington Post, and again, I will leave a link to it. It has video confirmation, as well as the article itself. It says, Chuck Todd tear into Ted Cruz, what planet are you living on? Chuck Cruz is pretty much mad on Ted Cruz on Monday Morning Joe after the set of questions the accuracy of his recent NBC News polls about the government shutdown. The subject, which NBC pollsters said that they were shocked by the show Republicans who, with their worst rating in the polls history, and blamed the GOP for the shutdown. Um, Morning Joe played the footage of the crew saying that the polls were heavily weighted with an awful lot of Democrats. No, it's not. No, it's not. Todd didn't mince word with his response, saying the Republican echo chambers was distorting Cruz thinkings. The problem is two-thirds of the country is thinking something else, he said, and that what you see in our poll wasn't just Democrats, it was independents, and it was one half of the Republican Party that doesn't associate itself with the Tea Party wing of the party. And he's right. And he's right on the box. And again, it just goes to show why I feel the Republican Party needs to start stepping up and keeping these people in check, because they're really single-handedly hurting this party. They're single-handedly hurting this party. He called Cruz's recent appearance with Sarah Palin odd, adding, "What planet are you living on here?" And that's pretty much the gist of the story. I don't even have to go any further because that's actually the whole story, and I will leave a link. But this is the thing that bothers me. And again, I have to stress this very, very clearly, is that him alone with a lot of few other people, all have led the Republican Party right down this path. And whether it's going to cost voters, I don't know. But one thing is definitely has done is that they have isolated themselves to the point where they only speaking to a certain group, who are either not educated or not informed of what actually is really going on, and they're looked upon as a bunch of guys who don't like minorities and is willing to do anything else to not only disenfranchise people from voting, but pretty much punish the poor and the middle class in any which way they can, on the grounds of, well, they need to get better jobs, or they need to start be more productive in society. I'm sorry, I don't get it. But to me, it's look. I want to hear out the Republican Party. I really do. I want to hear what they have to say. There are some things that they do have a point on, but you guys, it's very, very hard when you got people like that, running your party, basically dictating what the party should be as, in such a way that it's just a turnoff. It is a complete turnoff, and I'm hoping now, finally, people start to realize this and start to try and make measures to get more better leaders who has a clear head to actually lead and govern. Because there's another thing that really bothers me, and it's not just the Republicans, it's also some of the Democrats as well, is that they seem to forget who they're supposed to represent. They're supposed to represent us, the people who vote them in, not some dude who has millions of dollars thrown out there, and you do what I want you to do, make sure this law doesn't get passed. And that's something I've been seeing a lot lately with my Congress, and it's scaring me right now. It is really, really scaring me. Hopefully now with the elections coming in, these next elections, people will vote more wisely and not vote on emotion. But it's hard to tell, because one, let's be realistic. There are a lot of people who are funding the Tea Party parties, or funding these guys, both from Democrat side and Republican side. And as long as that money factor is still involved, we're going to have a lot of stuff like this happening. And we, the people, the voters, or going to end up suffering either way. I'd like to hear your opinion on it. We'll leave a link to all of the political news I was talked about. But I might as well finish this off with some interesting news. It's under the weird file for some reason. But I'm going to read it here. It says the Great Food Waste Scandal, which is something that doesn't surprise me, especially how the United States seems to waste a lot of food in this country. I'm going to read the article, then I'm going to talk a little bit about it. It says the UN Food and Agriculture Organizations have declared today World Food Day, and this year is concentrating on the issue of healthy food systems. This focus comes as the government and the informational institution are casting around the solution of feeding the ever-growing world population. The fact is, enough food is already produced to feed the world. The scandal is that so much of it is wasted. And this is actually a true note here, and this is something of a fact, especially with fast food restaurants. You'll realize that there's almost 2 to 3 tons of food that a restaurant can actually make, and instead of being donated, instead of being given, they throw that food out. They count it as wasteful material. They really take that food that is still hot, still good, still fresh, throw it in the bag, and throw it away. And if you ever work in these fast food restaurants or even restaurants in general, you'd be amazed, shocked, stunned, and surprised on just how much they toss out on a daily basis. It is ridiculous. If you start counting how much food they actually toss out day to day, you just basically, it'll probably just shake your head in disgust. But this actually do happen, and it happens more than I think what people tend to realize. The answer cannot be to continuously intensify animal agriculture, confining livestock to factory farms. This makes the problem worse. It adds to the waste. For every 100 food calories of edible crop feeds to livestock, it gets back just 30 calories in the form of meat and milk. 70% loss. At least part of the answer has to be to stop the scandal of food waste. Okay, let's continue here. The meat equivalent of 50 million chickens, 1.5 million pigs, 100,000 beef cattle is being wasted by the UK household every year, according to the new estimate released by my charity. Composition for world farming in the World Food Day. Compassion in the World Farming and Food Day. Compassion also calculates the retail sector of fresh meat alone wastes the meat equivalency of 16 million chickens, 400,000 pigs, and 50,000 beef cattle per year. The estimate for hospitality sectors are just as shocking, coming in the equivalent of around 6 million chickens, 150,000 pigs, and 20,000 beef cattle per year. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization World Food Day this year is dedicated to stabilize the food system, which is solely needed, with reports on billions of people in the world undernourished. These waste figures are suggesting if we want the food system that can support our ever-growing population, we have to stop wasting food. In the last paragraph, food waste is one of the biggest scandals of our time. We are not just wasting meat, we are wasting other food by feeding to the animals in intense farms who convert it efficiently into meat or milk when we could be feeding it directly to people. There you go. Now, guys, I'm gonna let you guys be the judge of this, what you guys feel about this. But I'm gonna tell you just by my experience working in fast food restaurants, my experiences working with the food service in general, that yeah, it is a big issue. And in New York, where the food is already expensive as it is. I mean, $30 will just probably give you a milk, a cereal, a stick of butter, and a bread. You just already spent $30. That's how expensive some of these areas are. So to hear that a lot of restaurants and to hear a lot of these other places waste food so poorly is really it's mind-boggling, to be honest with you. It also brings the question of why family members, strict family members, do not play games when they see their kids waste food. We don't waste nothing at the dinner table. You eat what you have there. You don't eat, you're in trouble, because that's food wasted. And this is something that has been pretty much is bringing to the forefront of how much food is used per year, per day, per month, versus how much we actually consume and how much we actually throw away. There was actually, I believe Oprah Winfrey have done it. I'm pretty sure she did it, or I'm on some talk show on Channel 7 that's probably not around anymore. But they showed a family member who bought $3,000 worth of food. I wish I can buy $3,000 worth of food. And they will cook, the food. They cook a whole big lasagna, a chicken. They cook almost like a 5-course meal. They ate one plate, and all that food they had made, all that food they have that prepared, got tossed in the garbage. Just keep in mind, they made a beef lasagna, chicken, some potatoes. I mean, onions. God knows what that was. I think it was a vegetable pie or something. And they ate only a few helpings of each one, and the rest of the food that could still be used to either feed some of the homeless in the area, or just be donated to someone who can actually help feed the homeless area, just got tossed in the garbage without even a blink of an eye. And many people asked them, they said, look, we already used the food. There's no need to keep it around. Okay, but could you at least make enough portion where you're not going to waste a whole? It's basically like this. They took, it was almost like 16 pounds worth of food. They only use about 2 pounds on their plate. So they were a family of 4. And some of them didn't even have a whole plate. They had like pretty much a half a pound worth of food in their plate. And you still had a good 10 pounds of food that has not been used. I would have used that for leftovers. That's my lunch. Nope, that went in the garbage. Completely wasted. And that's the thing that we need to be more mindful of and be more conscious of, especially with the prices of all these foods that's being on the rise lately. Be more cautious about the food that we're consuming, because it is a big thing. I'll leave that up to you guys to make the feedback on that. I'll leave a link below. You guys can talk about it. But for me, is be a little careful, be a little mindful, especially with the way foods are expensive these days. There are a lot of people who are struggling to make ends meet to feed their families out there. Those who have the money, be mindful of that, and don't use what you know you're not going to. Don't make what you're not going to use later on down the road. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. As always, I'll leave links to these reports. Love to hear your feedback on the matter. But until then, J77 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon.